Hello, spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of the Scary-ish podcast.
Woo!
Yay!
I'm doing it really quietly because it's midnight right now, and my mother is sleeping, so I don't want to wake her up with a giant woo. But yeah, I'm so excited to be here.
It was a much nicer woo
It's
for
a
my
subdued
ears.
woo. It's a sub woo. So I hope you enjoyed that. Robin, who are
Is
we?
it related to that one actor?
John Woo?
Yeah.
I guess a director. He's not an actor. What did John Woo star in, Robin? Please tell me.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, you can tell it wasn't a John Woo because doves didn't fly into the door when I did it. So.
He's the one that did Bulletproof Monk and stuff, right?
I have no idea. I mean, he's done a lot of stuff that I've seen, but I don't know about Bulletproof Monk. Couldn't tell you. Robin, what is this? Is this a movie podcast?
No, this is a podcast about interesting, creepy things, I think, anyway.
I mean, I sure hope so. So, for those of you who are listening, we appreciate you, and thank you for joining us. And like Robin said, we're going to go and dive into some creepy topics for you. There is one change to the format that we're going to be doing, and I think we're going to be sticking to it going forward for a little while. Maybe just the foreseeable future. So normally we start out the topic episodes by reading one homegrown horror each, and then we also have the storytime episodes, which come out on Fridays, but we record those live on Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we record those on youtube.com/scarish and twitch.tv/scarish podcast. That said, we're going to just stick to the storytime episodes for all the homegrown horrors you folks send us, instead of reading them on the topic episodes as well, so that way your voice can be heard in one specific place, and you don't have to worry about, like, well, I sent my email and I'm not sure if they're going to read it on the topic episode, the storytime episode. They're all just going to be on the storytime episode from now on, so we think it'll make it simpler. And it'll give us a little bit more time to kind of dive into our topics, because the topic episodes have gotten longer and longer, which isn't a bad thing at all, but we can save some of that time for like topic-specific content.
Cool.
So we're doing that, and I think we're going to stick with it. So that said, we don't have any homegrown horrors that we're going to share with you, but we're going to dive into our topics. That said, if you have a story that you'd like to share with us that's creepy, personal, like a haunting story, or anything coincidental, or anything fun, you can email
ask your parents, ask your friends, ask your
relatives. Ask your kids, ask your wives, ask everybody up in here. But you can email storytime@scarish.com. You can go to scarish.com, which is our website, and click on Contact Us. Fill out that form. You can message us on Facebook at facebook.com/scarishpodcast. You can join our Facebook group from there as well if you'd like. It's some fun stuff. You can see some fun memes and share your story there if you want some instant feedback from the community. You can also tweet at us at ScarishPod or message us on Instagram at ScarishPodcast. And if you want to join the Discord, go to scarish.com. It's the easiest way. That's our website. Scroll down on the right-hand side. You'll see all of our social media links. Just click on the Discord one, and you'll be right there. So that's the way that you can reach out to us with your story. And if you want to reach out to us just to speak to Robin or I, or both of us at the same time if you want to, you can email us and just let us know, like, hey, this isn't for sharing. I just wanted to say this and let you guys know. And that is totally okay. So that said, feel free to reach out to us however you would like, and we are happy to hear from you. So when it comes to the topics, Robin, what are you covering this week?
I am covering The Beast of Bray Road, and I'm going to say right now, the reason why we're recording at midnight is because I had to do a report today, a lab report that's due tomorrow morning, and it took me, I don't know.
6 hours?
Yeah, 6 hours.
I will say it's a very unique lab report I've never seen. It's not like a report that you would imagine writing, like, it's like 2 pages on this specific topic. It's like, no, it's like got some bizarre statistics. It's got tables and charts and then findings and answers.
So I'm taking mechanics of materials. If you're a civil engineer, you know that class.
And if you're not, you have no idea what that is.
Yeah, and so it's really, really annoying making all the graphs and Excel not working with you, and I'm just super annoyed.
Yeah.
So it's been rough, but Adam was nice enough to do my report for me.
I did. I mean, I call it a script, but essentially what it is it's a book report. But yeah, I did write it. I mean, schooling has to come first, but at the same time, we're going to make sure we get content out. That's why it's midnight and we're starting a recording session. So this episode's going to go up like just in the nick of time, but hey, we made it. And I wrote yours trying to sound like it's in your voice, knowing that you would read it.
But we're going to learn about it together.
She hasn't read it yet.
I haven't read it, so we're going to learn together about this awesome cryptid.
So when you read it, all I request is that, I mean, it's obviously a first draft and a final draft at once, because I don't go back and edit through it. So if you don't like how it's written, just get through it and like understand the content, and don't just pause to criticize my writing like, huh, did you say who? I think you meant whom. Yeah, I don't spell check or anything like that because it's only for my eyes. So be nice about it. My topic this week, if you haven't checked the episode title yet, is going to be the Bermuda Triangle, and I'm really excited to do mine. So
are you gonna wear Bermuda shorts while you tell us?
No, I don't think I'm gonna do that. I am wearing pants, which is just lucky for you because usually at midnight these things are not on. So, do you want to go first or should I?
Let me go first. So, this week I did pick my topic, though. I picked my topic.
She did. She was like, this is what I'm going to cover, and it's going to take so long, and I'm going to have to write my script after this. So I was like, do you want me to write your script for you?
Yeah, he was very nice to do that for me. But I wanted to cover a cryptid that I saw a movie for. Okay, so I was doing my report. I was doing my report, and I like to have sound in the background. So it's not just like monotonous. As someone with ADD type tendencies, if it's silent, I feel like I should be doing something else other than staring at whatever it is that I'm staring at. And so I get really distracted. So I was trying to put on a movie or put on a show or something like that. And I was scrolling through Amazon Prime, and there was one movie or documentary or something. I didn't actually watch it, but I saw the title of it, and it was like The Beast of Bray Road.
What was the date on it? Was it 2017 or 2018, or was it like 2005?
I didn't even look at the date. I just was like, this sounds super cool, and I totally want to do this topic this week. And then and then I was like, oh man, I'm never going to have time to research it.
Lucky for you, it was a real thing, and you didn't request I write a script for you on something that was completely fake.
But yeah, I'm really glad it worked out, because he was just going to have us both do the Bermuda Triangle stuff. So
I told her, like, would it make sense if I did Bermuda Triangle research and I pulled together like some actual like findings, and I could do some of them and you could do some of them? And she was like, no, I don't want that. I want Beast of Bray Road.
All right. So, like all the topics, especially cryptids that we cover, you can always take this as a grain of salt, because we don't know if it's real. It could just be a movie, and people were like, hey, it could be like Slender Man. He's not real.
Sounded like you said Splendor Man, which just seems like a different, like a male version of Mary Poppins.
It's just Mr. Manhattan.
It's weird to hear my words coming out of your mouth. Continue.
All right.
You're like a puppet of mine right now.
You have your hand up my body and just like moving my mouth. That's weird. Anyway, that said, the Beast of Bray Road is a legend that exists back in the Midwest.
Shout out to the Midwest.
So what would you describe as the Midwest? Because I had never grew up there. To me, I'm just straight up West Coast or Texas.
Yeah, she thinks everything is East Coast if it's not on the West Coast or the Southwest. Midwest is essentially like everything between, like, I don't know, Colorado, like between the mountains and the East Coast. So, like, the Rockies, as soon as you get out of them, like Nebraska, like, that should be part of the Midwest. Illinois, like, Missouri,
so
Indiana,
then how do you know
Ohio,
you're
Michigan.
or East Coast?
I mean, once you're on the coast, all the states that touch the coast are the East Coast, and then maybe the states just behind it aren't East Coast, or they might be. I don't know. All I know is that Midwest is where this took place.
Okay. So Bray Road is located near the town of Elkhorn, Wisconsin. And for those of you that don't know, including myself, Elkhorn is on the southernmost part of Wisconsin. That's kind of cool.
It's actually like in the county that's the border county to Illinois.
Does Wisconsin have its own legit type of cheese that just they make only in Wisconsin?
I don't know. I know they make a lot of cheese in Wisconsin, and some of them are probably like native to Wisconsin, but you'll have to ask like someone from Whiskey G. I'm from Indiana, so I don't know that much about Wisconsin cheese aside from that it tastes delicious.
I would love some. I want to try it.
Are you still listening for our Wisconsin listeners to send us cheese?
Send us cheese, Wisconsin.
Our P.O. box is on the contact as part of our website.
Anyway, so it's also well known to be sited in the town of Delavan, Wisconsin, which is very close to Elkhorn.
Same
apparently.
county, in fact. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Pretty sure.
Even though the name would make you think if you just avoid that road, you're safe, the sightings have not been limited to one location.
Tell me more, Robin. Oh, snap.
Sightings range all over southern Wisconsin and even northern Illinois as well. Well, so friends in Chicago.
Why did you say it like that? Northern Illinois as well.
No, I'm just looking at you because you know that area, right? So, so friends in Chicago, better keep your eyes open for one of those. Without diving too much into the creature, let's just hope that it can't survive extreme cold, because if it did exist, It's very possible that it froze to death in that superpolar vortex that just happened.
You're so clever, Robin.
You mean you're so clever?
No, but seriously though, like it doesn't say that it particularly likes the cold, so it's like anything that lives outside negative 50 degrees, we might have just lost a bunch of cryptids in the Midwest.
But I think they would be smart enough, considering they've been hidden this whole time, to hide away in like a cave or a cavern or something like that.
Where do you hide from a polar vortex, Robin?
I don't know. Deep
I've seen
underground.
The Day After Tomorrow. That's a documentary. You need a library.
I've never seen it. Is
and
it good?
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Wait, is that the one with Angelina Jolie?
No, I don't think she's in it. I don't know which one you're talking about either. So
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure you're talking about a disaster movie that's not Day After Tomorrow that also doesn't have Angelina Jolie.
Okay. Oh, yeah, dude. Okay, so I'm just reading everything Adam wrote, right? And he wrote about the toilet bowls freezing and exploding. It was so crazy.
Yeah, people were sending me pictures like, dude, I've never seen this before in my life.
I don't know how you guys did it. But
I have people that work in, I know people that work in office buildings in Chicago, and they're sending pictures of like the frost creeping across the windows.
How does it creep into the inside?
It's from the outside. It's just the fact that the glass is so cold on one side of it that it just starts to basically have like frost extend to the other side of it too. It's the concept of your windshield, like when you start to have like frost on the inside of your windshield when it's cold outside, same thing.
All right.
So you probably don't realize because you've lived in most like warm weather climates your entire life.
I've never been anywhere where it was super freezing. Even when we went to New York, it was cold, but not so cold that I was like, I'm dying.
There's like 20 degrees, which
anyway.
is a 70-degree difference from what they experienced in Chicago.
It was like, it's as close to a real life frozen eternal winter situation that people there have probably ever seen.
I thought of that, yeah, when it was like, when you could see like the ice creeping across the windows and it was all in like the snowflake pattern. Where it's like, that's what the lake looked like when she ran across it.
Anyway, the creature has been seen as far back as 1936, but was seen in increased frequency in the late 1980s and early 1990s. So this thing's pretty new. Not new, but recent.
It's been around, yeah, but the sightings definitely got really heavy towards the 90s. When I was like, right around the time you were born, ironically, Robin. Interesting. Coincidence? Yeah. I think not.
I brought it with me from hell. The creature is described covered in a brown-gray fur and is 2 to 4 feet tall, so it's kind of a shorty. And, well, when walking on all fours, oh my gosh.
So it's a very, very tall dog.
And 7 feet tall when walking on its rear legs.
Boom. Bet you didn't see that shit
So it's like
coming.
a big brown bear.
Keep going.
Pretty much, right?
The description gets better.
Its ears are pointed, its eyes are a shining yellow, and its paws or hands each have 3 long claws, like a
fucking raptor.
Turtle?
Yes, like an evil ninja turtle. That would also work.
What? All right. Like a raptor? Were you super excited about that?
Fuck yeah.
Like,
I was like, I pictured
dinosaurs.
The entire time I was writing the script, I pictured like this thing tapping its middle toe, like stubbornly while it searched for a kid in like a lab.
Wow. It also apparently stands on its hind legs with relative ease. I really am just imagining this big brown bear with big old like weird alien hands. It's been seen walking on 2 legs while carrying its prey, which apparently is variations of the smaller local wildlife. Think things you'd see on the road in the Midwest. So what would some of those things be?
A lot of things are like
moose?
No, moose? Are you insane? Do you know how big a moose is? If you hit a moose, you're the fucking roadkill. Those things are enormous. No. Things like maybe a deer is about as big as you're going to see. Probably like raccoons, maybe squirrels or rabbits or skunks or stuff like that. Like, I don't know if I've told the story.
Are there porcupines?
No, I don't think I've ever seen a porcupine, in fact. They might exist, but they're not like so. Like, I've seen raccoons a million times. I've seen deer a ton, but I've never seen a porcupine.
Have you ever pet a raccoon?
I don't think I have. Because usually, like, if you see a raccoon, the parents there are like, it has rabies. What they really mean is if you feed it, it's going to come back and it's going to go through our garbage cans. And yes, they will. That's why they're called trash pandas.
They're so cute.
But like the smaller game stuff, you don't typically hunt. I can imagine it like hunting stuff down like that, like a wolf would. But it's like apparently it walks, like it picks it up and it's just like, cool, like taking this back to the cave. And it walks on 2 feet while carrying it. So there's actually an artist rendition, and it'll be up on our Instagram of what this thing looks like, because someone sighted it kneeling on the side of a road, holding its prey like in 2 hands, like it was eating it, and it like looked up at them, so it almost looks like it's offering it to them.
Oh my god!
It's a really creepy drawing, but yeah.
Some accounts of the beast are of it on all fours and typically describe it as a werewolf. So it's like a big...
There's a book written about it, and it's basically called a Wisconsin werewolf. In fact.
That's kind of cool. So accounts in which the beast is walking bipedal have its description state that it's more muscular than what you may expect from a werewolf.
Which are really gaunt typically, right? I mean, that's kind of how they're usually depicted.
To
if
me,
you fucking bring up Twilight, I will bash my head on this desk until I die.
No, I was going to be like, to me, a werewolf is like the wolfish looking body with like a wolf head, right? A bigger upper body, wolf head, wearing like a plaid button-up shirt and like some jean shorts.
I hate you so much. I mean, I see like basically a wolf that has really long human-like arms and legs. And when it stands up, they're like relatively skinny. They're not like muscular.
Okay.
But keep going because there's another cryptid that people say it looks like.
All right. Some describe it as resembling Bigfoot or a bear standing upright.
So that's thick as F. I know I've said the F word a lot, so I'm trying to cut back.
But I don't think he looks like, from the sound of it, he doesn't sound like a Bigfoot at all.
Well, that's it. It gets interesting here too about why it's categorized as a Bigfoot by some cryptozoologists. But people basically describe it as like a mixture of a dog and a bear.
All right. Local folklore leans more towards the werewolf side of things, as it's most commonly thought to be to the locals. So locals think it's
a werewolf. Yeah, indeed.
Okay. Due to the frequency in the sightings, official investigators treat it as a Bigfoot to avoid bringing in the supernatural element.
Cryptozoologists, I mean, there's a bullet point there that you're probably going to read, but essentially what they've done with the creature is categorize it as a Bigfoot because that's something that they can investigate and probably get grant money to do so.
No way.
And like you don't investigate supernatural.
You don't investigate werewolves. You investigate
things that used to exist a long time ago that they have proof of, or things that might exist that don't have supernatural elements to it.
Yes.
So they categorize it as a Bigfoot because of that.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, right here it says cryptozoologists are afraid if they investigate a werewolf, they won't be taken seriously, and I can totally understand that because then they'll be like, "What is this Twilight shit?"
Like exactly like me. I'll be like, well, whatever.
It has other names as well. Some folks call it the bear wolf. That's kind of cool. Not to be confused with the man bear pig that threatens South Park, Colorado.
I'm being super, super serial right now.
Now all I can think about is Spider Pig, Spider Pig.
That is such just, I don't know how you didn't jump to something South Park related.
Because I think Homer's way cuter.
Okay, I guess.
You don't think so?
It's like comparing apples and oranges.
You're an apple.
Thanks, orange. I don't know what I'm supposed to say to that.
Orange, you're glad I didn't say banana.
Will you please just keep going?
Others call it a dog.
Knock, knock.
Oh my. Okay, who's there?
Interrupting cow.
No, I thought you were gonna do the good.
No.
Okay.
Sorry, that's a shout out to Robin's niece who told us that joke at least 10 times. Oh man, it was probably more like 50 times, but it got funny again because she kept doing it. And then at one point we were in the car all driving together and she was like getting upset about something. She's like, "You're not paying attention to me." And she was like yelling at someone. And while she was yelling, I just went, "Moo!" really loud over her. So it was a gamble. I was like, she's either going to get really mad about this or she's going to laugh. And luckily she laughed. So I like just mooing sometimes to interrupt people.
Others call it.
It's really late, man. I am really tired. So.
Yeah, so stop talking.
I'm on the interrupting kick this episode, which was you last episode. Keep going though.
Others call it a dogman. Native Americans to the area believe it to be a wendigo. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I kind of pictured it as a wendigo as well.
Which is something we have covered in the past. Yes, we have.
Yep.
Good job.
I covered the wendigo.
There are reports, according to the locals, that date back to the first settlers to the area. They claim that canine creatures would attack the settlements, then vanish without a trace.
Now, whether or not there's actual documented accounts of that, or people just say that they've heard of that, it's to be seen, because there's not a lot of stuff. This is a local legend kind of thing, you know. There's not a lot of super documented stuff on it. But I did find it very interesting that a lot of different websites claimed that the locals state, like, we've heard about these things before, like, we'd heard the legend about 1936, and we heard about stuff that happened back when people first came here. So it's pretty interesting.
Witness accounts range from being shocked at the sight of a creature so bizarre and seemingly out of legend, while others are downright terrified and state that they felt as if the creature was something demonic. I think it's just something that came out of Earth's core and was just like, "Hey, bitches!"
It's weird, because you have to imagine there's at least one land creature that we just haven't seen enough of, that we just assume it's fake, kind of like
that big owl, that
giant
owl.
One that looks like the La Luchesa that we covered back before. Yeah, that one's terrifying. It was posted in the Spooky Friends group. Don't know. Not going to worry about it right now. Now I was going to compare it to the giant squid of the sea, where everyone's like, it's fake. It's fake. It's fake. Oh, shit, there is one.
That's
oh, my God, there's a
keep
bunch of them.
saying about man-bear pig.
I know, man. I don't understand how people deny these things. They're so... seriously, though, like, things are always fake and ridiculous up until it's discovered, and then it's like, oh, it instantly goes from the majority of people think something is 100% fake to it's 100% true fact now. And the only people that get you there are the people who think it might be plausible that something's real.
It's like Al Gore with man-bear pig.
Oh, God.
Okay, anyway.
I didn't think the joke would last that long.
The sightings became so frequent between 1989 and 1991 that a local newspaper writer named Linda Godfrey wrote on the story. And what did she write? Let's find out. Her initial reaction to the Beast of Bray Road was that of a skeptic. So you could say she was an Adam.
Shout out to Adam. What's up, Adam?
But after investigating the sightings and speaking with the folks who claimed to see it, her perspective changed. Maybe she saw them dollar signs, dollar bill, y'all. Or maybe she legitimately believed the people she was talking to.
It's very, very hard to tell.
Whenever money is involved with anything, I think you have to really take it as a grain of salt and just be like, skeptical side.
Take it as a grain of salt?
Take it
with.
I think we've all talked to someone who was legitimately scared of something, or we've all told someone a story that had a sense of urgency, but was also 100% true, like the battery that exploded in the office and freaked me out.
And when you tell a story, like, there's a certain authenticity to, like, someone being scared or someone telling you something that they can tell, that you can tell, like, whatever they're saying to you, like, they believe it, man. Like, whether or not it's something that you can believe, seeing something come out of someone's mouth with a specific type of behavior, it's very hard to fake being 100% scared of something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you talk to people that were legitimately scared of something, like, maybe it's not exactly what they saw, but they saw something. So
yeah.
I think that really changes a skeptic's mind that, like, something out there might exist, but
yeah, the truth is out there.
I hate you so fucking much. Something out there might exist, but it might not be what everyone thinks. It might not be a cryptid. It might be like a mutant form of something, like a dog or a bear. But at the same time, it's like when you talk to someone that legitimately seems like they're telling you the truth, then you kind of tend to believe them. So
yeah. I can't imagine what it would be like to have someone tell you something with those two feelings present, like, is it real or is it fake or whatever. And someone was like, hey, that thing looked like a werewolf. Like, what are you going to do?
Can you imagine if someone was, like, dead serious and scared telling you a story and they're like, I saw a fucking werewolf? Like, imagine, like, being one of the people from
was
Supernatural.
It teenage?
I hate you so much. No, but imagine being, like, someone from Supernatural where it's like you see something for the first time. And, like, in Supernatural, we watched a stupid episode, this stupid show yesterday. But, like, you see something, it's super scary, and then you go and you tell someone, like, I saw this, and of course they immediately believe them in that show. But realistically, like, how would you react to, like, your best friend or the person you trust the most in the world coming to you and telling you, like, I saw something completely supernatural, like, and I'm 100% freaked out about it? Like, I just couldn't help but think that when I was going through all these different accounts of it.
Yeah. Whatever the case may be, for her, it changed her opinion. And she, of course, ended up writing a book, which was published in 2003, so pretty recently.
It took like 10 years for her to get her book out, so I don't know if it was like it just took a while, or if she was like, because it's not like she immediately cashed in on the craze when everyone was talking about it, so it doesn't really seem like a cash grab, you know?
Yeah. Apparently, it's a mixture of plausible explanation for what's been seen and a bit of supernatural as well, which when it comes to cryptids and things like that, I feel like it has to be, because there's no way something has existed for so long and been sighted every once in a while and not have some supernatural aspect to it. By the way, I just built a Mothman statue in Fallout 76.
I hate you.
It is amazing. And it's so cool because when you press like use the statue like disperses into a bunch of moths and like comes back together. It was really cool. Anyway, that's my...
It's a really good depiction of what I imagine the Mothman looks like. But let's get back to the Beast of Bray Road.
Okay. There are multiple rational theories on what sort of creature the Beast of Bray Road could be. It could be an overgrown wild dog or a large wolf, which I highly doubt. Dire wolves are being seen south of the wall these days. Oh!
Game of Thrones joke.
Did you know they're coming out with Game of Thrones Oreos?
Yeah, I saw that. That's awesome.
I'm so excited. all the Game of Thrones swag that's coming out.
If you want to get me to buy something I normally wouldn't buy, put Game of Thrones on it and say it's going to come out around the same time as the show.
It's
I will have my Game of Thrones Pepsi, which I don't drink, and my Game of Thrones Oreos, which I don't combine with Pepsi, and I'll be watching the show, just stuffing my face.
Urban Decay is coming out with a whole makeup line for Game of Thrones, and I am going to swim in it.
That's weird.
I'm so excited.
I'm going to wear some guy liner while we watch it, and it's going to be
sweet.
awesome.
There are even claims that the creature could be what is known as a wahila. It's a supposedly extinct creature that is usually spoken of in the cryptid category, as opposed to historical fact. Interesting.
It's not like 100% proven, but cryptozoologists treat it as if it was real at one point, where it's like they don't believe in werewolves, so they don't investigate werewolves, but there are cryptozoologists who think this creature existed at some point, and I'll let you continue.
It's believed to be an animal that existed in the Canadian and Midwest regions. What's with all the weird stuff in the Midwest, man?
I mean, it's just a place. I don't know if it's a lot of stuff. It's just a place where there's cryptids. There's cryptids everywhere. Supposedly. It's probably all bullshit. But there's cryptids based off your region all over the place.
This wahila resembles a mixture of a bear and a dog. So I could totally see what you're getting at there by having this big dog, bear, reptile dinosaur thing.
Reptile dinosaur not included.
Some locals believe that the old legends are just that, a legend. People claim that the creature is nothing more than an individual in a suit trying to scare folks and stir up trouble. In a generation where the internet is just viral this, viral that, I can see someone going out of their way to do that.
In a generation where the internet didn't exist and life was boring as balls, I can see teenagers or even young adults being like, let's make a costume and scare people and just stand on the side of the road and hope you don't get hit by cars.
What's interesting in this case, however, is that even the local skeptics believe something has been seen.
Whether or not it was a creature or just like a wolf or a person in a suit, they're like, I believe they saw something, but then they roll their eyes. It's not, they don't roll their eyes as soon as someone says like, I saw a werewolf.
My eyes just automatically roll all the time.
I know. I'm aware. I see it all the time. Basically, anytime I speak or give you an idea, they're in the back of your head like The Exorcist.
It's a skill. Okay. Anyway, so if you're in the area, these are things that you should know. First and foremost, there are no accounts of the creature actually harming anyone, which is good. Which makes me think that it may just be a puppy that happens to be 7 feet tall. Aw,
it's
that's
so cute in my mind's eye.
We just took our dogs to the vet today. Well, Adam took the dogs. You were a very busy bee today.
Yes, I was.
And they are so fluffy.
They're fluffy, and their nails are trimmed, and they've been brushed, and they've been vaccinated against all the things that you need to be vaccinated against. So they basically had a spa day if you got a bunch of shots after. They
were so cute, though. Our Sheba, I don't know how they do it. Every time she comes back, she's like a big ball, like a big Pomeranian type fluff ball.
Or she's just puffed up.
Yeah, it's crazy. Give me that brush and shampoo you use because it's amazing.
It smells so good in our house. Just the dogs walking around, it's just like they're wafting, which is great because it's been raining so much in Vegas. It's like you give your dog a bath, you like dry it, it has like that scented shampoo, then it rains the next day, you let her outside, and then she comes back in smelling like, I don't know.
But?
Not exactly, but
what
like,
dog?
I don't know, like stale tortilla chips or something.
I don't know why. She smells like Cheetos.
I don't notice that. I think the tortilla chips.
She smells like corn chips. If you smell the blanket, it smells like freaking corn chips.
I don't know. Is she one of those? What are those creatures that smell like popcorn that you got wrong at one time?
Binturong.
And you said that you were a binturong about it.
Yeah, I was a binturong about it. That was
like really early.
On.
That was really early in the podcast, and that really established like, hey guys, do you like really terrible puns? Hit subscribe.
I think I'm pretty punny.
I feel like anyone who's stuck around since then till now, like, just send us your address so we can send you a medal because you deserve it. P.S. We don't have medals. We're not going to send you anything.
Okay. Also, according to Linda Godfrey's blog, most sightings occur between 10:30 and 5 a.m. So if you're not out and about at night, you're probably good. If you're like us and you're just inside all the time, then you're safe.
Yeah, you're pretty safe right there.
Although it has been seen all year round, it happens to be that most accounts take place between August and October. So fall. Well, no, that's warm time, right?
Beginning of fall.
Warm.
I make a note of it. I'll let you get on to the next part.
Okay, so since it's February, right? Meow. God.
I forget that I type meow sometimes. I really do.
So since it's February, right? Meow, you're safe. which kind of leaves out the idea that it's a Wendigo, as those things love the cold. Oh, that's kind of cool.
They really
All
do.
right.
They're usually populating the Great North, and it's usually because it's so cold. So, like, I don't imagine, like, any time... Like, okay, I'll let you read the next part.
And in the Midwest, in the month of August, it's hot, humid mess.
It's really bad, dude. Like, I moved a friend of mine in August. It was like 95 degrees outside and 90% humidity. It was the worst experience.
So if this thing is like really furry, then it just must be having a hair nightmare.
I would imagine it sheds like our Shiba, where it's just shedding constantly.
That said, the frequency of folks seeing this thing increases around specific types of sites that one should avoid, assuming you're trying to avoid it.
There's so many people out there that when we give these things where it's like, here's how you avoid it, they're like, let me ignore all that shit. Tell me exactly what I can do to find this thing.
Longitude and latitude, please. Those sites would be cemeteries, burial mounds, churches, crossroads, and military areas. Military areas,
Surprise me, right?
Yeah.
A little bit.
Wow.
The other things all have some sort of religious significance except for crossroads, which I make note of.
Crossroads seem a bit weird too, unless you're a demon trying to buy someone's soul.
Damn you, Supernatural.
Why would a cryptid be drawn to there? Beats me. I don't know. That's pretty cool. I think the thing that throws me off most is the military area.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot different.
It's a large grouping of people who are very capable of shooting and killing you. So you figure it would avoid those at all costs.
Unless it's like Buffy, where they have the initiative and all the monsters are in the initiative.
I hate you so much.
Okay. So, although I did state that the creature has never harmed anyone, there are accounts from those who claim to have seen it acting aggressively, so that's kind of scary. I'm sure it doesn't act aggressively towards humans. Maybe it's one of those things that it's more scared of you than you are of it.
I think that's true with a lot of things, so maybe that's the case with this. We also have to remember its eyes are yellow and not red, so it's not evil. It's evil-ish.
Since most sightings are from cars driving down dark back roads in the Midwest, most have had the opportunity to simply keep driving and put space between themselves and the beast. So it's good to know this thing doesn't run really fast on all fours.
Oh, just wait.
Oh, gosh. Okay. There are accounts... this is it, isn't it? There are accounts, however, of the beast charging cars and even jumping onto the roof. Although multiple websites claim this, I wasn't able to dig up the exact account of this happening, so take this with a big grain of salt. There's a lot of salt being tossed in this episode.
Yeah, it's a very, very salty script.
Okay, so maybe you can't really escape it that easily.
Well, it's most of the accounts aren't of people walking around the woods. It's literally people driving down the back roads. And the reason it's called the Beast of Bray Road is because that's supposedly the first place people saw it in 1936.
Yeah.
But obviously, like, it's not limited to that. But it's like you've driven in the Midwest, or at least been in the Midwest at this point, and been down the back roads. There's no streetlights. They're usually just two lanes, one going one way, one going the other way, and just a bunch of woods or a bunch of crops, you know? So if you see a creature, it usually just comes out of the tree line and you have to swerve to avoid it. Imagine a 7-foot tall werewolf looking creature coming out and you being like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Just keep going.
Yeah. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Which, like I said, is something you have to do for this whole thing. Taking everything with a grain of salt. But unlike other local legends that we have covered, like the Lizard Man, this cryptid didn't go through the same marketing sensation that makes most of us skeptical, except for that movie that I found on Amazon.
Lizard Man. Well, that's the thing, though. It was seen 89 to 91, 92-ish. That movie didn't come out until 2005, and then the documentary about it's coming out in 2018.
Wow.
Supposedly, like, October of 2018. I don't know if it actually released, but, like, that's 2 works of fiction within, like, 25 years. Where Lizard Man had all that stuff pop up like immediately afterwards, like weeks afterwards.
Sightings took place frequently over the course of 2 full years, yet there isn't a Beast of Bray Road festival like the Lizard Man. Oh,
I
that's
Googled
so
it.
sad.
Yeah,
Poor...
I looked to see if he's getting his own festival, and it's like, no, there's just a bunch of accounts of people seeing this thing.
He's got to find his beauty.
Wow.
Beauty
That's
and the
weird.
Beast.
I've never heard.
Get it?
I hate you so much.
There aren't t-shirts and hats and stands on the sides of the road where the creature is supposed to be seen. So maybe this, having been seen around military places, makes you think that maybe it's something they want to keep hidden. If there's no festivals, no things like that, you know what I mean?
One of the things that's not in the script, and I think it's definitely a possibility since so many people say it resembles so closely a werewolf. I mean, the whole reason that cryptozoologists don't research werewolves and the supernatural portion of it is because they transform. It's because they're people that transform into werewolves. It's not like outside the realm of possibility to think that there's a tall, skinny version of a wolf that can walk on 2 legs and is just bestial. That sounds like something plausible. The reason they don't investigate werewolves is because it's supposedly like a curse that can be spread by biting, similar to vampires. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That supernatural aspect is what they leave out of it. And if we're going to look at this through the lens of maybe this thing is supernatural, then maybe the reason people don't find it...
It's because Dean and Sam are out there murdering
it's because during the day it's a person. And at night, or at some point, eventually, the thing will shift into the beast. And that's why, for so long, people haven't been able to see it. Similar how the Wendigo, like, undergoes a transformation from a human being.
Yeah.
It's like maybe, and I'm the skeptic, so take this with the big grain of salt. But I'm just saying, like,
God.
If you're going from the rules of the supernatural, and this is something of the supernatural, then maybe that's why, like, people keep seeing the beast, but they don't see it, like, in other portions.
That's really interesting.
Maybe it doesn't exist during the day.
Cool. No festivals or anything, just a bunch of locals debating what people actually saw, and the general warning of, regardless of whether it's real or not, it's probably best to stay out of the woods and just keep driving if you have to be out at night. I totally believe that. I would not want to be stopped on the side of the road in those back road Indiana roads. No.
I've seen deer, just normal deer, like stare at a car. Like, I was in the car, my brother was in the car. We came to a stop sign. There was a deer on the side of the road, and it was just sitting there, like, looked up at us. And it's like, wow, I'm really glad that didn't, like, cross the road while we were driving. And it charged the fucking car and rammed the side of the door with its head. And we're just like, what is your problem? And it just ran off. So, like, even being on the side of the road in the middle of the night without any sort of cryptids, if none of them exist, you can still get knocked over by a deer or attacked by an asshole deer. So it's just like, it's just a good rule of thumb to not be out and about or on the side of the road.
An
deer?
Asshole.
I hate you so much.
All right. So, despite none of the locals seeming to try to capitalize on the story, the media still called the sightings a case of mass hysteria. Rude.
It's very quickly dismissed.
Aside from Linda, the one that wrote her blog and the book,
she still has her blog going. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's where I found some of the rules.
Dang. There haven't been a plethora of books written on the subject, and even the movie that I had noticed. This is me talking now, that I had noticed.
I didn't realize she was going to tell you guys that I wrote this for her, so I tried to write it from her perspective.
So that's nice of you. But you deserve the credit. And even the movie that I had noticed turns out to not even be made by anyone from the region.
Yeah. It was just made for, people were looking for a cryptid to make a movie of.
Linda, who wrote the book that has the exact same name as the movie, wasn't included in the making of the film at all.
Which she notes multiple times on her blog.
Does she really?
She shits all over the movie a little bit, yeah.
Wow. Well.
She's like, yeah, the movie that has the same name as my book from 5 years earlier, yeah, I had nothing to do with it.
So this one doesn't have the same feel of a story that was possibly made up and took on a life of its own to drive in tourists and things like that, grabbing people's money. And
especially like the Lizard Man, it just sounds like that one kid made up the story one night, and then everyone else just kind of like capitalized on it.
Right.
This one is a lot different.
Being a local legend and being that there wasn't a huge craze that followed the sightings, there isn't a ton to go on. Just a lot of secondhand accounts from people who claim to know someone to have seen the beast. But I'll wrap this up with a first-hand account from an individual who claims to have seen the Beast of Bray Road. And this was posted anonymously on the internet, so it's clearly 100% true. No, it's not. Probably not. And spoilers, it wasn't on Bray Road. Okay, so this is just someone who claims to have seen it and has this whole story about it.
Yes, it was on one of the list websites. There's a lot. Whenever you do research and you're trying to find some legitimate stuff, and you type in the name of a cryptid, there's going to be lists that pop up like Ranker, Lister.com. There's a million of these sites that do this. And it's like 10 cryptids from the Midwest you didn't know existed, blah, 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 blah. So there's always a bunch of different subjects. And some of those lists are like only 5 things deep, but each one has a personal account from it.
Oh, wow.
And that's where I found this one. I read a lot of personal accounts, and I was like, yeah, that sounds fake. That sounds fake. Whether or not this one was just really well written by someone who made up bullshit or true, it's hard to tell. And because because I'm the one who looked this up, I want to give you this disclaimer. I was like, this one feels authentic to me. It sounds like something I could hear someone telling me back home.
Okay.
So we tossed it in there, and yeah, go for it.
All right. So it goes a little something like this. I lived in the town of Franklin, Wisconsin. This was about 1997 or 1998, and we had just moved into a brand new subdivision. And we're currently the only house that was built. One, being the only house that's built is creepy. You're just surrounded by open plot.
And some houses that are being built. It's also kind of awesome because it's like you have a whole subdivision to yourself.
Sex parties.
Exactly. Get to know your neighbors.
Stop it. The rest of the area.
True story. Some guy basically invited Robin to a sex party in front of me when we were shopping for apartments that one time. Do you remember that? We were looking for places to stay. We were with a friend, and this creepy dude that showed up in like gym clothes was the guy showing us this house to rent. And we're just like talking to him. He's like, yeah. And we like to all get together and have parties together. You should come sometime, Robin. And I'm just like standing there like staring daggers at him like, make eye contact with me, motherfucker. And he just avoided my contact. And then eventually we left. We're like, yeah, we're good, bro. Like, go buy yourself more Axe body spray. And when we left, he only said bye. Not to me, not to the friend we were with, but to Robin. Like, oh, bye, Robin. Hope to see you around sometime. And it's like, fuck you, bro. I'll murder you.
Yeah, I don't remember this because...
How do you not remember this dude?
I just don't care. I remember the dude. I don't remember any of that happening.
Don't act like you don't remember him being creepy.
He was definitely creepy. I don't remember that exact thing, though. He was definitely creepy. Guys, if you want to be a real estate agent, don't be a creeper. And wear professional attire. Yeah. So... the rest of the area for a long distance was empty lots on what used to be the adjoining farm's old land. That already sounds bad. Like it used to be part of someone else's land. That's
how a lot of things are in the Midwest. Like farmers are just like, they have so many acres. They're like, let's just sell off like a plot of our land to get developed on. Because that's where they make a lot of money.
And then you're just going to be like, I buried my bodies there. No big.
You never know what's there. That's the house I grew up in. Like, because my dad grew up in a haunted house, he was like, my forever home, like the home you imagine you're going to stay in for most of your life, he was going to build. He wasn't going to move into someone else's house. So we bought a plot on a former cornfield, and we built our house there when I was 7 years old is when we moved in. I don't think so. It was creepy though because when they were like tilling the land so that we could like put in our house.
Did they find stuff?
There was bones everywhere. There were animal bones everywhere, and I remember picking them up as a kid and showing to my parents, and they're like, "Oh, that's an animal," and they were freaking everywhere, dude. So when we moved in, me and my brother were immediately like, "This place is haunted," and regardless of whether or not it was, my dad had the house blessed like twice.
Wow!
Like immediately. So.
Our backyard had a running creek. On the other side of the creek was some brush and a single-lane road with an old wooden streetlight that gave off an orange hue about 30 yards or so away. It was a warm summer night, and I was having a sleepover with one of my friends. We had all the lights off and were playing hide and seek in the dark. What the fuck?
It's called ditch. That's what we called it back home.
Why would you?
And we had like subdivisions, so we would like get all the kids in the subdivision.
No. You're going
to
outside?
Go out at once. Yeah, but you like, you say like,
goodness.
you can't go past this road. You can't go past this road. Everyone's outside. It's the middle of the night. One person or two people or three, depending on how many people you have, they're and they go inside for like 5 minutes, and everyone just gets to hide out there.
That is the worst idea I've ever heard of. Like, that's asking to get kidnapped.
It was so much fun though. And then we also played flashlight tag in the dark, where it's tag, but if you put your flashlight on someone and you were you freeze them, and then you have to come back and someone has to touch it to unfreeze you. There's a lot of stuff in this that just reminded me of Midwest from like these things, like even him talking about like the orange hue from the streetlight. It's like, I see that. I can see that in my mind's eye.
I went back into our sunroom and saw something crouched over, illuminated through the brush and the orange streetlight. I'm not sure how to describe its body posture, but you know how when you're about to throw up and you hunch over on your knees and palms? I don't get on my hands.
I don't either.
I opened the lid.
If you were church, I'd get on my knees.
Oh, shut up. I like opened the toilet like lid, and then as soon as that air hits my face, I'm like,
I have a very specific throwing up ritual that I never thought I'd be so excited to share. I always go into the toilet. If it's not like, oh my God, this is about to happen, like regardless of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I run in and I just puke in the toilet. But if it's like, I feel like I need to throw up, I need to go in there. I kneel down in front of the toilet. I put my hands to the side of the bowl. So they're on the floor. So I'm like on all fours. And as soon as my head gets like near the bowl and I can smell
it's that air. And
I get a little bit grossed out. And as soon as I get grossed out, because that's never enough to push me over the edge, I think of one specific thing. And I sometimes even say it out loud. I'm like, runny eggs. And I think of eggs, like scrambled eggs, or even like when you get like a sunny side up egg or an egg over easy.
That's the best.
That's still raw, where it's like the egg around the yolk hasn't been cooked. and it's like still like clear and see-through and it looks like snot. As soon as I think of that, just it has worked for 33 years, man. Just bleh, I pop like a cork. And I summon it up every single time. I'll do it like 3 times. Like, you know how like you throw up and you're like, oh no, there's still more in there. And you got to do it again, but you have to put some effort into it that time because you like...
There's nothing in there, so you're like...
You're like, there's a little bit left, but I'm going to have to like heave.
Yeah.
Like, I swear, there, at least once in my life, I've been like, running eggs! And like, I've just yelled while I threw up. Like, I swear to God, every time. But yeah, I think this guy means like someone squatting like a catcher in baseball, and then they have their hands on their knees. And they're like leaning over. Like, I think that's what they mean by that.
It says hunched over on your knees and palms. So I'm thinking like you're
More
sick
like,
as a dog.
okay.
And so you're on your knees and your head's in the toilet.
Shout out to my friend Jimmy who puked standing up, which is the weirdest and
Did it
most
dribble down his shirt?
No. He keeps his mouth clean. He just refuses to get that close to the toilet. The problem is that you have to clean the toilet afterwards because it splashes. So, I mean, we should have put a warning in front of this because it's a really gross conversation. But
all right. Anyway.
tweet at us and let us know how you throw up.
Don't really do that. That's not good.
Hashtag you make me puke.
Oh my gosh, shut up. So yeah, knees, palms, down like a dog, probably. And it was similar to that. And its breaths were so deep and heavy that you could see its chest heaving from that distance. We had a 140-pound Akita. And if you guys don't know what an Akita is, it's a big Shiba. It's just a big old Shiba. And it stood 6 feet on its hind legs. I could easily tell that whatever this was dwarfed my Akita. I also know that it wasn't any type of dog or wolf. Its hind legs were thick and muscular like a man's, but its body tapered at the abdomen and had a head like a wolf or canine. Did it have a button-up shirt and some jean shorts?
I hate you.
I called out to my friend who came over and just said, "What the fuck is that?" to me, trying not to make much noise. We sat there as it was hunched for a good 30 minutes. That must have been so freaking boring. My dad, who was a hard-ass Vietnam vet, came out to see what the hell we were doing up so late. We asked what it was, and he just said, "I don't know." He then went outside as we stayed in, scared for my dad. He had one of those old megalights that had the power of 1,000 candles.
I carried one of those lights to creepy places, and I had one of those dads who, if it was a ghost story,
what that is.
It's just a big flashlight. But it's like, if it was a ghost story, my dad would have no part of it. But if it was like, there's a weird creature in the woods. My dad's 5'9". Like, he was a Marine during Vietnam. Like, my dad would be like, "Give me a butter knife." And he'd go outside. He wouldn't give a shit. So, like, the idea of this military guy just, like, going outside when his kids are scared, like, yeah, it just reeks of authenticity to me.
Okay. He stood in the driveway and shined it onto whatever we were watching. It looked back at us, and I honestly don't remember its eye color. Was it yellow or red? That's the only way.
We need to know.
What I do remember is that when it took off into the brush, it took off upright. What? So for 30 minutes, it was hunched over like a dog. And then when it had to run away, it was like, whoa! Like it got up on its hind legs and was like, so it took off upright like a sprinter from the on all fours stance. So think of like a runner in the Olympics or something.
Ready, set, go.
Yeah.
Got it.
My dad heard it splash through the creek and hightailed it in. It was one of those fucked up moments you don't really talk about because people will think you're crazy. When I heard about it so many years later, I immediately knew I'd seen it too. And that's the end of the script.
I mean, I don't know. It could be complete BS. But it sounds real. It really does. It sounds like they saw something. And you know what it could have been? It could have been a really tall, hairy dude throwing up on the side of the road that saw someone, was like, "Oh, shit," and had to run away. And, I mean, if when it was running away, it yelled "runny eggs," you would know. But it didn't.
Wow.
It's not in the story if it did. So, I don't know. I thought it was really interesting. And I think it's a really, really fun topic to do because I had no idea what it was until you brought it up to me like 3 hours ago. And it honestly just sounds like a Midwestern American werewolf. That's what it sounds like to me. Yeah. So who knows? And it sucks because the only people who are willing to investigate it dismiss immediately the supernatural aspects of it because it's like, "Oh, we can't investigate that." It's like, what if the reason you're not figuring anything out is because you're dismissing that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but it could all be bullshit. Who knows?
You finish like everything with that. It would all be bullshit.
I just want people to know that I don't buy into every single thing just because I hear about it or just because I like give it credit for sounding like it's possibly real, you know?
Yeah.
So right on. That was a great topic, Robin. You did a really good job.
Yeah,
that research was phenomenal.
That was really good research. Thank you.
I appreciate that. So I'm going to go ahead and move into my topic for the show. Before I do, though, I want to remind everyone out there who wants to support us that you can rate or review us on iTunes, and that really, really, really helps us. Or you can go over to patreon.com/scarishpodcast and sign up for as low as $1 a month. And, it's just 4 quarters. It's like the cost of something that you would find in a vending machine, and you can donate just once a month and get early access.
Vending machines cost like $2 now for a bag of chips.
I know. So I'm just saying, super cheap, helps us out a lot. And we're going to be planning, and we're almost ready to confirm dates and times and all that fun stuff for Winchester Mansion, because we did get to our goal during January Patreon push. So Robin and I were discussing dates and hotel/Airbnb and who's going with us when we go and how many people we might be expecting. So expect to hear an announcement on that soon. But the more patrons we get, the easier those things are. And it's just really exciting stuff. So if you guys want to help us out, head over there and sign up. But That said, we're going to go ahead and move into the last topic for the night, since there's only 2. And this one is the one that I also wrote. And this week, realistically,
your own horn there.
Like the last 5 days, a little bit, but the last 5 days have been kind of tumultuous, to say the least. Like Sunday, we were like planning on doing so much, and we were exhausted, and 2 out of 3 people in this house were sick. Not me, for once. So it was just like a rough day. And then today has been so busy. But that said, like leading up to recording, like I kind of knew I wanted to do something well known, you know?
Yeah.
And like I considered a couple of things. Like I thought about aliens, I thought about Bigfoot, I thought about Zaboomafoo, all those fake things. And then in the end, I wanted to cover something that I was obsessed with as a kid, and something
Zaboomafoo?
Close-ish to home. I had no idea Zaboomafoo existed until you and your sister started talking about it. But I bring to you, dear listener, the Bermuda Triangle, because as a kid, I really did think this was just the coolest thing I'd ever heard of. Like, even though it's really creepy, I thought, like, that's just so odd. It's got to be a portal to hell or something. And then you get older and you read more.
No, that's Hell House. It makes you go blind.
Oh, I hate you so much. I'm pretty sure Zach Baggins is actually the devil. And his show, the entire purpose of his show is to convince you things don't exist. So he can keep churning them out into the world to torture humans.
Shut up!
That theory might hold more weight than I think, but Zach Bagels would never admit it. All right, so maybe he'd just totally buy into it and just like start a new museum called Hell House, and it would just be like the cheesiest haunted house you've ever been into. He'd be like, booga, 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 $50. All right, so let me just stop talking shit about that.
Okay.
Guy. All right, so normal disclosure of the show. I do have to note that although I'm going to discuss the phenomenon that occurs in the area known as the Bermuda Triangle, I also want to make sure that some of these theories could obviously be bullshit. Some of these things are like scientific facts, and people know that these things exist, and we'll get to some of those things. But near the end, I'm going to get to some of the more paranormal theories, but just no grain of salt. So another thing to note up front is that the phenomenon that occurs at this point has been noted multiple times from various sources as quote-unquote solved.
Really?
So, yeah, people are like, oh, Bermuda Triangle mystery solved.
I don't know. I just watched Hotel Transylvania 3, and
I hate you so much.
they go to the Bermuda Triangle, and all these ships are just piled on the bottom of the ocean. It's kind of cool.
That's funny. And we'll get to that. And don't read my script over my shoulder to get spoilers, because I know how much you like to do that, because there's some good stuff in here. So anyways, that said, when someone comes back as like solved for something, people tend to think of it as debunked. And when it comes to the Bermuda Triangle, nothing could be further from the truth. Solved in this case doesn't mean we know that many of the reported events are proven to be faked or hoaxed. Hoaxed? I don't know if that's an actual verb, or if they're proven to be hoaxes. But they're actually confirmed as having occurred. We just start to say things like, we know why. So that's interesting when it comes to something, because usually when you hear solved, it means debunked, but not in the case of the Bermuda Triangle. So maybe some of you out there have never heard of the Bermuda Triangle, and maybe some of you have but aren't too sure what it is. So maybe you've heard of it by a different name, because there are multiple names for it. It's also called the Devil's Triangle.
I've heard that one.
I've heard that one also, and I've also heard that that's a variation of three-way sexy times with 2 men and 1 woman, but that's also known as the Devil's Three-Way. So don't get mixed up. If someone asks you if you want to go do a Devil's Three-Way, be like, I mean, if you're into it, be like, yes, but if you're not, be like, no. And if they say Devil's Triangle, then be like, I need you to clarify, do you mean the Bermuda Triangle or sexy times? Because either way, yes. But anyways,
this is a weird tangent.
The Bermuda Triangle is a region of the Atlantic Ocean, and it has 3 specific points. This is not an equilateral triangle. I want to point that out. It's not a perfect triangle. It's all the angles are acute except for one, which is wide, which I'm pretty sure is an obtuse triangle. I haven't been in math for a very long time.
Poor thing doesn't get to be cute.
Or geography. I hate you so much. Anyways, the 3 points of the Bermuda Triangle are as follows: Miami, Florida, San Juan, Puerto Rico, and of course, Bermuda. And
Bahama,
it's
come, I'm pretty mama. Is that how the song
Key
goes?
Largo, Montego. Yeah, I know that song. I had to sing it in 5th grade.
What?
Yeah, I'm going to take you to Kokomo, where they take it fast, and then they take it slow.
They make you sing that?
I mean, we had a talent show, and they just gave us songs we had to sing.
Oh, okay.
That's where I want to go. Way down to Kokomo. I hate you so much. It's so late, man. It's so late. So anyways, it's totally understandable that it's named after Bermuda because, like, the San Juan Triangle doesn't have, like, the same ring. And the Miami Triangle, as we all know, is a 3-way with 2 dudes that are both dressed up like Don Johnson from Miami Vice. So I'm pretty sure the theme song needs to be playing in the background for it to be a Miami Triangle. All right, I'm going to move on from the sex jokes now.
What is the theme song?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
If I heard it, I'd identify it right away. It's fast paced, but if I do one right now, it won't be the right one. So now you know where it is, and also to avoid dudes in pastel pink shirts and gray blazers with their sleeves rolled up, who says the show isn't educational. But what makes it an ominous, mysterious place for those of you who have never heard of it? Well, bizarre things tend to happen there, and not the kind of bizarre things of folklore or legend that have characters rather than people. Real things have happened there. Some of those things that have happened are a result of, to be blunt, human ignorance. Like, natural phenomena has occurred there for a long time, but it's done it like before we realized what it actually is. So the place got a bad rap pretty early on.
Bubbles coming up from the ocean.
I mean, that does happen, but I'm going to get to it. People claim to see, like, just in general, like, strange lights in the sky. And it became attached to, like, Norse gods more so, or like different things. And then we find out it's all just the Aurora Borealis or the Northern Lights, which Robin covered, all the different things that people thought of it. Now we know as a naturally occurring
it's just
phenomenon.
Sarah Bareilles.
And I hate you. But another name for the Bermuda Triangle is one that's very well known, and I think this is one that you need to talk about first. It's also Hurricane Alley.
What?
It 100% is Hurricane Alley. And of course, we know what hurricanes are.
But like water spouts, not actual hurricanes?
What? What are you talking about?
Where the Bermuda Triangle is.
It's Hurricane Alley.
But it's water. How is there hurricanes on the water?
That's where hurricanes come from.
I'm thinking Tornado Alley.
You are the worst. No, this is Hurricane Alley.
Delete it.
Nope, that's staying in. I mean, like, realistically, I'm going to get to it. I'll describe where hurricanes come from. It's like when a daddy hurricane and a mommy hurricane really are in love.
Oh, my goodness.
Or they're just drunk and they meet at a bar. I said I wasn't going to do more sex jokes, but it's late and it's all I have left. So, obviously, nowadays we know what hurricanes are. They're enormous storms that build up as they make their way across the ocean. And they start out on the coast of Africa and move across the Atlantic Ocean, increasing in severity until they make landfall. And this is the region that they pass through before hitting either North or Central America. And most people that live around here know what a hurricane is. They know what Hurricane Alley is. And they know it's coming through that area. And that's where they typically get way, way stronger. So what's mysterious about that? Well, there's another phenomenon associated with the area and other areas that wasn't well known for quite some time. It's really easy to see a huge storm coming like a hurricane. Even if you don't have Doppler radar, you just see a wall of clouds on the horizon and the waves start picking up, and you know maybe a day or two in advance that a hurricane's going to hit. But, like, what about a really small storm? And there are incidents where boats would be out on the water, and it would go from perfect weather 1 minute to dangerous, vicious, and violent storming weather the next. And it was almost like the world was suddenly falling down on their heads. And they didn't know what the hell caused it. They just knew that out of nowhere, they were essentially in what was hurricane conditions, and like horrible hurricane conditions, like not category 1, like category 5 hurricane conditions.
Think they're out there making DuckTales? Isn't it like Rock Me Like a Hurricane?
No, that's a song called Rock
Something
You Like a Hurricane.
Like a hurricane.
Life is like a hurricane.
Yeah, life is like a hurricane.
So these storms would cause massive, centralized, focused destruction, and individuals who would survive the storms would obviously tell the tale. Like, we didn't see a storm out of nowhere. We're in the middle of one. We don't know what happened. And a lot of times ships would be lost and people would die. And even other sailors in the area would come back and be like, we didn't see anything like that. Like, they're full of crap. And basically, like, undercut their credibility. And the ferocity they would describe would only be something people identified with hurricanes. So they'd be like, none of us saw a storm coming. The seas weren't rough. Like, you must be lying.
So it's like a little mini hurricane.
Exactly. And, like, people would call those sailors crazy. And they would ostracize them. And they would lose their careers. But these mini storms have or had a name back in the day. And that was white squalls. And they are very real. And for quite some time, people thought they were a myth. And a squall is typically a bad storm at sea. What?
Does he have a gunblade?
Sure. Yes. He's a Final Fantasy character. So is Squall white in that game too?
I mean, it's a white man.
So yeah, he's a white squall. There you go. So a white squall in real life, not Final Fantasy, it comes from normal, ordinary-looking clouds. Like a squall is something you call a storm at sea. It comes from like green or black clouds. White squall was a term given to like it came from like normal blue skies, white clouds, and that's why they're called that. And now we eventually learned that this thing exists. They're actually called microbursts. And microbursts are very real, and they're no fucking joke. And what's shocking about it is they're usually associated with a nearby storm, but sometimes, scientifically proven, they can just crop up with no storm nearby and have severe storm-like conditions and cause massive destruction, and then just disappear right afterwards. And in many cases, this is what happened to these people in the Bermuda Triangle, because this is the area where hurricanes come through to get strengthened. So the conditions are perfect for squalls. So what's also bizarre, and like not a lot of people know about this, is there are even dry microbursts that come without rain.
Wow,
where microbursts just exist, and basically what happens is it starts to rain, and it's very, very cold in the like highest parts of the sky, right?
Okay.
And as it rains, the water's evaporating because it's raining down into like warmer weather, and the water's just kind of going away and evaporating back up. And this phenomenon causes basically a giant cold air pocket that's going to sink.
What?
And it does. It's basically like a giant ball of cold air just gets too heavy and just falls. And it's invisible. You can't see it. But I went to Canada. I used to go to Canada once a year. And we went up there, and some guy told us, like, you guys have to be really, really careful this year. We're having microbursts. And some of them aren't even having rain, but it's really, really dangerous. And he took us to a part of the island where you could walk to, like, other lakes. And the trees were flat. They had been there for hundreds of years. Super tall trees. Think Canadian forest. And it's like a fucking atomic bomb had gone off. Like, they were literally flattened. All the trails were gone, and they were cutting through them with chainsaws. And they're like, you won't be able to get to those lakes until next year because we have to cut through all of this. And, like, we can't clean it up. Like, this is just going to be here. Like, this is what it looks like right now. Because there was a microburst, and it was a dry microburst where the wind just came down. It's like the air fell, and it just flattened the trees.
Wow.
And it legitimately looks like a bomb went off. Now, imagine being on the sea with rain, lightning, and that happening. And that's what squalls were. And people thought they were BS. But at the same time, when things kept happening and people kept talking about them, they're like, Bermuda Triangle, like crazy shit happens here. And that's the thing, though. Crazy things were happening there because that area is the perfect condition for that to happen. So it's like debunked, also confirmed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're going to see that play back into itself a few times here. So now that we know that they actually exist and they happen a lot in the Bermuda Triangle, what about the downforce? So basically the air that's falling from the sky. What about the measurements that have been taken for the observed phenomenon? Well, imagine being in a plane when this happens. The downbursts are so powerful that at times, upon colliding with the water that makes up the Atlantic Ocean, they cause waves that are measured up to 40 feet high.
That's crazy. So you're saying that these waves that are like 40 feet high could totally just sink a ship because it goes over and just is like...
And it's possible that you didn't even see anything happen because it's just cold air falling from the sky, essentially. I mean, most of the time in those conditions, it's going to be associated with a storm, but they've caused waves that are 40 feet high.
I'm just imagining a ship going through the ocean, and all of a sudden they're just doing whatever, and this air suddenly just falls, right? Because that's
all you know is you basically get crushed.
You just see a wave,
or if you don't get hit, you just see a wave come at you. And 40 feet is really tall. It's 4 stories. Like, it's very tall. And some have occurred to ships and had their wind speed measured. Like, there was a disaster where this happened, and it hit a boat. And they were able to say, like, this is the velocity of what we were hit by. So we'll get to some of those fun events later. But for reference, there was a small shipwreck that started, and they said they suddenly had 20-mile-per-hour winds hitting their boat. By the time their boat sank, it was measured to be 90-mile-per-hour winds coming straight down.
Wow.
When you hear the term straight-line winds that are just going straight out, where it's not associated with a storm, but they talk about how dangerous they are, it's because microbursts have happened over land, and when they hit the ground and there's nowhere to go, they go directly out. That's why when I was in Canada, those trees were leveled. It's not because they were directly under it. It's because they were to the sides of where the microburst occurred.
Wow.
And it's like a blast wave. It's like a blast wave from a bomb. There have been downdrafts that were measured in the Bermuda Triangle that didn't strike something, but were measured by instruments that, I shit you not, were measured up to 170 miles per hour. they've started calling these things air bombs, naturally occurring air bombs.
Wow.
Imagine 170 mile per hour wind suddenly just falling from the sky and landing on you. It'll literally shove a ship under the water. I mean, it'll smash it to pieces, but like your vessel will be destroyed. Like,
is it like a beam, like an air beam, or is it like a huge radius?
It's like a huge radius. It's like a pocket. It's not like ice beam. I don't know what spell to compare it to from what game. So that's one natural phenomenon that would occur in a place known as Hurricane Alley. That's also known as the Bermuda Triangle.
All right.
And that's not surprising. I mean, we know these things now because we can measure it. And now we know that a lot of these things that happen where ships would disappear or planes would crash.
These ships have no time to...
You don't even know what's happening
SOS
until it's
or
on top of
whatever.
you.
Yeah.
You really don't. And like with Doppler radar nowadays, you can see like dramatic changes in pressure and wind speed and wind velocity. But typically it's like real time. You're like, oh, well, we should probably check there to see if someone was there because they might be dead. So it's something that we know happens, and it happens in the Bermuda Triangle. So what else happens there? Well, compasses and other orientation devices are known to, well, basically malfunction within the triangle. And like, this is one of my favorite parts about the whole solved claims is that they note in these things that most compasses actually don't point to true north. You have to be in a very specific region between, like, I think it's between actually Wisconsin and some part of Canada. And if you're there and you're using a compass, it's actually pointing to true north. Otherwise, like, depending on where you are in the world, your compass that shows you north, that's not actually north. And they say, like, that's the same thing that happens in the Bermuda Triangle, and that's why people get so disoriented. Well, that's the thing.
That's crazy.
That's not 100% true, because the accounts of people losing their orientation, it's because their compasses are pointing in the wrong direction. And they're rapidly fluctuating to the points where people say that their compasses spin in the Bermuda Triangle.
That's insane.
Where it's like, we don't know where we are. And we're going to get to that. There's an account I'm going to read you where that happens to multiple crafts.
There's an episode of Torchwood. I don't know. Have you ever watched Torchwood?
I have not. I just know it's a Doctor Who spinoff with Jack Harkness.
Oh, I love Jack
Where he
Harkness.
gets a blowjob from Spike at some point.
Oh my goodness. There's an episode where a plane goes, I don't know if it's through the Bermuda Triangle, but this plane flies through some sort of time slip, and they end up in modern day Cardiff. And everyone is super fucked up because they're like, what the hell? I was way back in the day, Amelia Earhart time, and now I'm here, and one guy ends up killing themselves.
They just discovered a plane in the area that they thought Amelia Earhart crashed.
Shut up.
They're like really, really pretty sure that it's going to wind up being her plane finally recovered. So it's crazy stuff.
This is, yeah, I don't know. But dude, watch Torchwood. It's really good. It's way more intense, and not to say mature, but it's like, it's not comedic like Doctor Who. It's completely different. You should watch it. I think you'd like it.
I might. I have so much on my plate to watch. I'm supposed to watch The Man in the High Castle now.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with
So
that.
much good TV.
So unfortunately, though, that's not the whole story, because instrumentation across the board is known to fail, not just compasses, but basically anything that uses any form of electronics have been known to basically malfunction or just stop working. And some theorize that the ocean bed in this region is like rich in a form of mineral that throws off instrumentation, kind of like the suicide forest in Japan being like right on the edge of a volcano, and that's why like people's cell phones don't work and all that other stuff. Side note, I personally blame the meteor that hit just south of there. It did kill the dinosaurs, so maybe some of it's like meteorite material sunk into the seabed, but it is much further south of where that like strikes on. That's really interesting. If you've ever wanted to look into the whole like meteorite that killed the dinosaurs theory, like how they developed it and how people kept shooting it down because there was no crater on Earth big enough.
Yeah.
Like they basically found like part of a crater and didn't realize it because it was touching like the top part of South America. And then they realized like, oh, we need to get satellite images. And once they did, they're like, oh, the reason that only looks like a mountain range is because it's the bottom part of a crater. The rest of it's in the ocean.
Wow.
And they realized the crater was more than big enough, and they dated it, and they're finally like, oh, yeah, this hit right when the mass extinction on the planet happened.
That's incredible.
A super interesting story, but it happened like right there, like right near the Bermuda Triangle, but it's actually south of it. But it happened 65 million years ago, so possibly material from that meteorite drifted up, or it's just like, you know, plate tectonics shifted further up.
Right.
So,
I mean, we used to be Pangea. Look at us now.
Pan Am today, Pan Am tomorrow.
Pan Am forever.
Is that the whole thing? I don't know. I haven't seen that movie in a while. There's also an apparent event that occurs here, which I've never heard of this, but I was reading about it today, and it's no bullshit, called electronic fog. And it's basically a storm, so it's like a cloud, but it carries like a very potent electronic charge that causes instruments that use electricity.
Halle
and
Berry's
things
in there.
What?
Halle Berry's in there.
Oh, I hate you so much. It causes things to fail. So it's like, no big deal, right? Like, we can explain it. That means it's not dangerous anymore. So let's call this solved or debunked. But no.
I've never heard of an electric storm. I think that's really cool.
It's just like, imagine a storm that's filled with lightning. You know how you have heat lightning sometimes where it's really hot out, but it's dry and it doesn't rain?
Yeah, there's just thunderbolts and lightning.
I hate you. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing another reference. I can't get through 2 bullet points without you doing this to me. But imagine that, but the lightning's not coming through, but the whole cloud, the whole storm essentially is just this giant ball of like charged electricity that just makes all your instrumentation fail. So it's a pretty scary place that all these natural phenomenon occur there. And we're like, oh, we can explain why that happened, but it doesn't change the fact that it's happening. And like, oh, did I mention the rogue waves? I mentioned that the downbursts cause waves.
Yeah.
And this might be the case, and this might be the reason why. But we've talked about rogue waves before. There was a rogue wave that struck a ship that someone was on during Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
And it was so violent that it almost like capsized the entire cruise ship. It was like a 140-foot wave, if I'm not mistaken. And that was the inspiration for the Poseidon adventure. And did you know that some of the researchers and scientists that call the mystery solved also accredit the abnormally high occurrence of rogue waves in the region within the triangle as a reason so many boats have been lost there? Like, that somehow like explains away a phenomenon that still occurs. Like, what a relief. It isn't supernatural.
Well, then what causes all the rogue waves that are more so than other places?
Microbursts, and on top of that, for whatever reason, they just naturally occur there more than like everywhere else. And they're measured on average to be around 90 feet high. So if you're just sailing through there and you get hit by a rogue wave, it's 9 stories tall. It's like, yeah, these are reasons why ships would sink, and they all seem to happen. Like, the whole Devil's Triangle thing really does make more sense when you think about it. Like, this is an area that's so beautiful, but if you're a sailor and you know all these things happen there,
right,
you're like, I'm not going there. Like, do you have any idea what happens there? The worst things happen. The sky falls on you, literally.
Do boats still go through there?
Oh, yeah, all the time. Lee's there. I don't know if he's there right now, but he's on a cruise to the Bahamas, man. Like, it's just a little bit north of the triangle, but if he goes too far, I'm just saying we might never see him again. I really wish we would have gotten this episode out before he went, too, so he could be freaking out on his cruise ship. But, okay, so let's get back into this. So, I mean, I didn't pick an arbitrary number. Like, 90 feet is the things that are reported on the same, like, research where they're claiming all these things are debunked. With, like, here's the explanation, no big deal. So it's like, this is a terrifying place. So with all that going on, it's not a surprise that planes and ships wreck here constantly. So, like, why can't anyone ever find the wreckage? Like, you imagine you got a pretty good idea of where they went down. You should be able to just go find it, because it's not the deep sea, you know? Like, it's still basically like the continental plate is just underwater there. It's not like the deep trenches of, like, the deep middle of the ocean of the Atlantic and the Pacific where Cthulhu is imprisoned.
Oh, my goodness, okay.
So you imagine people would know where to go find all the things that wreck here. And the fact that things never get recovered is definitely bizarre, but that has to do with the Gulf Stream. Hooray, we can explain another phenomenon. So what is the Gulf Stream, you ask? Well, to put it simply, it's an extremely powerful water current that moves through the triangle and up the east coast of the United States. And the best way to describe it is by all accounts a massive river that just so happens to run through the middle of an ocean.
So it takes all that wreckage and it kind of just takes it away.
Just carries it away, and it dumps it somewhere else, and people don't find stuff. So not just wrecked crafts, but stranded crafts. So
and
things
and all
that might have
stuff.
ditched in the water, like, it just carries it away. So if you just land in the wrong spot, like, people aren't going to find you. And as a side note, like, we know about this. We have satellite images of the current itself. So you should still...
You can see the current?
Yeah, and you would, like, they always check the ocean currents to see, like, how things
do
are
you see
moving.
it?
I mean, usually it's infrared because, like,
I see what
the
you're saying.
temperature differential.
Okay.
But that said, like, we still don't find the wrecks from these places. Like, we find them more now than we did before we had satellite images. And I'll get to some of the events that have happened as recently as last year. Or maybe 2 years ago. It's 2019 now. But still, like, it's just bizarre that so many things disappear. So that's got to be it, right? Like, I've described so many phenomenons that we know naturally occur in the Bermuda Triangle that's debunked and not dangerous, which I will not fly into, like, ever. But
you
no.
say that, but it
Eventually,
might happen.
Yeah. All these conditions are very dangerous, and you would imagine that that's the end. But no, I saved the best for last.
Oh, really?
You might think air bombs, like, that sounds like a best for last thing. Or
Time
like
travel.
the whole river in the ocean thing that, like...
I think that is cool.
I like the part where it, like, carries away the evidence of Mother Nature's murdering spree. Like, there can't be anything else. So we're going to get a little sciencey, and I hope you don't mind. I'm not going to get too in-depth with it. But it's been discovered, this is a known fact, that there is a significant buildup of methane hydrates on what are known as continental shelves. So let's break that down. Methane hydrate basically means gas, natural gas that occurs on the bottom of the seafloor. So the continental shelf is essentially like, if you think of America, like the continent of America, and you look at the map, that's not where the land ends. It just starts getting lower and lower and lower, and the sea level covers it up, right? Eventually, the continent itself does end, and then it drops off into the deep sea.
No, what?
So, yeah, that's true. Like, and then the continental shelf is basically the part of the continent that's still underwater. And it has a lot to do with tectonic plates and stuff like that, which, by the way, of course, there's a tectonic plate right in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle.
No.
Yes, there's the North American plate, which is enormous, and there's the small, super small Caribbean plate, and their fault lies in the Bermuda Triangle. So,
wow.
That's what makes this stuff up. So, let me go ahead and make this more palatable for you to understand. So, basically, like a piece of landmass that makes up dry land, as Kevin Costner would call it, is underwater. But the landmass underwater basically has the fart needles underwater. And it just needs to let it rip.
Never mind what I'm getting.
So, and like anyone trying to hold a fart, you can only hold it for so long before you have to just let it rip. And these methane eruptions underwater are called, and I shit you not, this is what they're called, mud volcanoes. Which is what I call a really wet fart that leaves you with mud, bud. So,
oh my goodness, okay.
We know all these things exist. We know they're in the Bermuda Triangle, and we know it happens very, very frequently there. So, maybe that's why these occur more frequently than other places, because of the plate tectonics going on there.
I can see that.
But just so happens it's in this area that we know as the Bermuda Triangle. So, what happens when the ocean gets a wicked case of mud butt? Well, so imagine literally a fart in the tub. Like, I think everyone's had that experience once or twice. Like, the air bubble rises to the water, and then as it contacts the surface, you get those light ripples of the water escaping, basically the bubble popping. On a larger scale, you don't have to imagine a fart if you don't want to. Imagine, like, a whale letting out a bubble or whatever. When it breaches, when the bubble breaches, like, it causes smaller bubbles. And on a scale like this, it causes essentially frothy water. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, if you're on the water and this happens, like, what do you experience? Well, a lot of different things, because the properties of that water.
There's no more surface tension, and your thing's gonna totally start.
It's very
sinking.
different than that too. It's not just the surface tension. The properties of this water are different because it's so filled with methane, and most notably, you have significantly reduced buoyancy. And this is 100% true. Our wonderful friends down under in Australia have performed tests, like within laboratories, to prove definitively to scale that a ship of various sizes that are known to travel through the Bermuda Triangle can, to put it delicately, sink like a fucking rock if they go over the water while one of these explosions happens.
That's crazy.
The water basically just has you sink through it. Like, your air pocket in your boat and everything is too heavy, and you just go underwater. Like, that is an ocean fart swallows you whole, basically.
Swallows you into its hole.
It's so gross. Like, you just go underwater, and like, I'm sure at some point, like, that disperses and you'll resurface, but imagine a full ship going underwater. Like, it's going to be decimated, you know? It's going to be basically destroyed. And you guessed it, the Gulf Stream comes in and is like, shh, 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 don't worry, no one will ever need to know about this, and carries it away. So there you go. Now you know almost all of what happens in the Bermuda Triangle. Try to imagine all these phenomena occurring at the same time to one, like, really doomed vessel. Like, airburst hits it, it gets shot underwater right at the same time the ocean is farting. It might wind up on the ocean floor like in 10 seconds. Like, you don't know. And that's what's so scary about all these things that happen here. So now that we know, and now that you're probably impressed if you're disturbed like me, or a little freaked out, let's look at some of the incidents that have occurred here. We're not going to cover a bunch of them. We're only going to cover a few because there are so many, and most still do remain a mystery. So let's start on February 16th, 1918. Now that you understand these things, you can form your own theories in your head if you want.
All right.
So a ship known as the USS Cyclops, which is just such a sweet name, had just left Rio, and it was headed for Baltimore, Maryland. But it had an issue. The starboard engine was cracked and had to be shut down.
What?
So this is already starting out bad. Like, it needs to go to Baltimore. It needs to take its cargo to Baltimore, but one of its engines is just like out.
So why can't they just be like, nah, dog, we're going to fix this and then we'll go?
Well, that's the thing, though. It's 1918. They didn't have what they needed to fix it in Rio. They had to get back to Baltimore. So they stopped in Barbados to try and figure out what they're going to do. So they went over the whole thing. They talked to whoever they needed to, and they're like, all right, so here's the deal. Like, we're going to leave now, and we're going to come to Baltimore. We're going to get the ship fixed. We're going to deliver our cargo. And there's a line on the side of a ship, and it's called, I think this is correct, the Plimsoll line. And it's basically like different levels, and the top line, if the water line is above that line that's drawn on your ship,
is it going to sink?
You're too full. Not necessarily going to sink, but you're too full. You're overloaded. And that's what they were. So they stopped, they evaluated, they decided they could still make it, and they left Barbados on March 4th, 1918. So they were in there for like 2 weeks. And they set sail, and they were going to be going to Baltimore, which means, of course, they're going to have to go through the Bermuda Triangle now. And the ship was never seen again.
Whoa.
The ship or its crew. And there is
the cargo, that poor cargo.
There is a debunked account that it was spotted on March 9th. Someone said that they spotted it on March 9th in the Triangle. But the captain of that vessel, he wrote a statement stating, like, we never saw it. Like, we saw a different ship. Someone's just saying this for attention. So, was it focused bad weather mixed with, like, an overloaded ship? Well, probably. And why do I say probably? Because they have never recovered a single piece of wreckage or body. They've never seen hide nor hair of this ship. They've never seen any of the cargo. The cargo is like magnesium ore, which is used in like stainless steel and a bunch of other stuff.
Okay.
They're going to use it to build stuff. I'm pretty sure it's used in like iron and other things, but I don't really know. But it's just so bizarre that this ship left. Like they knew like, ooh, the conditions aren't great, but it should make it. Just gone. No one ever saw it again. And that, of course, contributes to the legend of the Bermuda Triangle just swallowing up a ship and no one ever seeing it again. Because you imagine they'd find some wreckage, but no, they never did. And this event is still 101 years later, because this is over a century ago now, the single largest loss of life in the history of the United States Navy, not related to combat.
Wow.
There's never been a larger loss of life than this vessel disappearing.
What about the Titanic?
It's not a USS Navy. What are you talking about?
All right.
You want to just make up some fake stuff? What about the day after tomorrow? So many people died.
What about Angelina Jolie?
I hate you. So 309 people sailed out with the boat. 309 people vanished along with the ship. They were never seen again. That's it. That's a massive loss of life.
Okay.
But it's like, hey, we have science, no biggie. We can debunk to say like what we think happened to it, so no big deal. It's all on the up and up, right? No amount of science can make 309 people and a giant boat disappearing feel any better.
Yeah.
You know? It's just bizarre. So let's move on to the next one. So January 31st, 1921. So this is 3 years later. A ship called the Carroll A. Deering. I'm pretty sure I got that right. It ran aground in North Carolina after sailing through the Triangle. And when investigators boarded this ship, they found none of the 10 to 12 members. I couldn't quite nail it down. Probably 12. They basically listed all the crew, but then didn't mention the father and the son who owned the boat. So I'm not sure if they're on it or not.
Okay.
But basically, no one was there, and they were never seen from again. So the people that were on the boat just disappeared, and this ghost boat ran ashore. And so when they investigated it, they found out that the steering mechanism was damaged, its log and navigation equipment were missing as if they had been taken, and 2 of its lifeboats had been deployed. Food was left in the middle of being prepared, and the crew did appear to have abandoned the ship. They thought something went wrong and the crew got off, but they were never seen from again. So they don't know what happened to them. Their personal effects had also been taken. So one other theory is that it was piracy. That they had boarded it, they had stolen everything, they had killed everyone, but then why would they take the lifeboats? And that's why the piracy theory doesn't always hold up, because they're like, if the pirates showed up, they had their own vessel.
But what if they wanted the lifeboats?
I mean, why would you steal a lifeboat? It just seems like such a bizarre thing to do.
River rafting.
And how would you move it from their vessel to your vessel? You'd have to lower it. I don't know. It's a weird thing, but the lifeboats were missing. So, and it was during Prohibition. So it's possible that rum runners going between the islands, for whatever reason, decided like, hey, even though we're supposed to be hiding and delivering things secretly, let's go hit that ship and steal everything and kill everyone.
Only 12 people on it.
So, but whatever. It's a ghost ship that ran through the Bermuda Triangle and just wound up emerging with everyone gone.
Freak me out.
And ghost ships are scary, man.
Yeah, whenever ships end up on shore and there's no one on it, it's like, how?
And it just runs aground and you're just like, holy shit, like what just happened? So we're going to jump ahead again. So now we're going to go to December 5th, 1945.
We should have jump ahead sounds like
like the Batman logo. So this is one of the most famous ones there is, by the way. This is one of the ones that sparked my interest. It's called Flight 19. Some of you guys might have heard of this. And I remember hearing about this as a kid. So it was a routine training flight for 5 torpedo bombers over the beautiful Atlantic Ocean. The total number of airmen involved in Flight 19, 13. Lucky number. 13 people dispersed amongst 5 separate planes.
All right.
They set out from Fort Lauderdale, which is in Florida. And if you want an exact spot, imagine you're looking at Florida on the map, and it looks like a penis. And since that's what it looks
no,
like...
No, it doesn't.
Have you ever looked at Florida on a map? It looks like America's dong. So, like, if you're looking at Florida and you're noticing that it's a penis, then imagine the front side of the dong just below the rim of the tip.
Oh
and
my God.
As a side note, yes, that is gross and possibly unnecessary, but you also now will forever know exactly where Fort Lauderdale is.
I still don't know where it is.
You're welcome. I don't know how you've never noticed that Florida looks like a penis. But let me just give you a quick breakdown of the official result and report before we go into it. So, the flight left the base, was supposed to do their practice run, and then return to base. And they vanished off the radar suddenly, and they were never seen again. And the official reason is that all 5 planes had their fuel miscalculated, causing them to not be able to make it home. Now for the official details of the story that make that not sound right. About 3 p.m. local time, the pilots became disoriented as they were flying, and their navigation equipment started to malfunction. There is a record of their conversation trying to reorientate themselves and return to base. And they made radio contact to attempt to figure out where they were. And when they were asked, quote, "What is your trouble?" they replied, "Yo, dog." Not really. They replied, "Both of my compasses are out, and I'm trying to find Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I'm over land, but it's broken. I am sure I'm in the Keys, but I don't know how far down, and I don't know how to get to Fort Lauderdale." So they're basically asking for directions because all their equipment is malfunctioning. And they were given directions, and the person giving them directions also told them to try and orient themselves where the sun was in one of their windows so they would know they were heading in the right direction. For whatever reason, it was not working. And they were not able to find their way back to Florida. And although it's unclear, it's believed that despite their best efforts, they went further out into the triangle. So it's not like they crossed to get over into the Gulf. They just kept going further into the triangle. No matter what way they tried to orient themselves, they wound up getting further into the Bermuda Triangle. So guess what happened then? The weather got bad.
They disappeared.
And because of this, the transmissions got screwed up and began to cut out. And at one point, it's recorded that there was a dispute between one of those in the formation and the leader. And the person that was disputing said, quote, "Damn it, if we could just fly west, we would get home. We need to head west, damn it." Like, they knew what they needed to do, you know?
Yeah.
They knew they were in the Atlantic, they weren't on the Gulf side, and they needed to get back home. So when asked why they didn't just do that, it was chalked up to military discipline. Like, they followed orders. Like, they followed the wrong order, but they did the right thing because that's what you're supposed to do. You do what your superior tells you to do. Which just goes to show you, like, you can have your pride and not questioning your leadership, or if you question it, you still follow them. But if your leader isn't competent, you're basically a lemming about to go over a cliff. Because there's a reason I'm telling you about this story, and it's not that they made it home safely. So eventually they decided to fly west because they didn't see land. And then later on, the leader of the flight stated, "We'll fly 270 degrees west until landfall or running out of gas." So at this point, they know they're going to run out of gas and they're getting worried about it. And at 5:04 local time, so they've been flying for over 2 hours now, and they've not known where they are for over 2 hours. The leader stated, holding 270, so they're still heading west, "We didn't fly far enough east." So he thinks they're in the Gulf because they're just over water and they don't know where they are and they can't see anything. And he says, "We may as well just turn around and fly east again." Which reminds me of a time I got lost in Chicago when we were looking for a venue so we could go see a show. And we went the wrong direction. Then we turned around and went the right direction. And then my friend driving thought, no, we've driven further than we had in the opposite direction. So we turned around again. And it turned out that when we turned around, we were still like 10 minutes in the wrong direction. And we did this for 2 hours. And then finally we were just like, go east, which is the opposite of what they needed to do. And as soon as we crossed the freeway, we were like, no, that's where we got off. We just turned the wrong way. And then we crossed the road, and then there was the place we were supposed to be. If we'd have taken a right, we would have been there. But we took a left instead because there was no Google Maps. It was just like MapQuest. And we took a left because that's where it told us to go, and it was the absolute wrong direction. We basically drove out of Chicago and then back into Chicago. So when we wound up seeing the only band play, we didn't see any of the opening acts.
Oh, that sucks.
I think it was Tenacious D. I'm pretty sure that was our Tenacious D experience. And then we had to park somewhere because all the parking was taken, and our cars got towed. And then we had to walk like 32 city blocks to get our cars back. So yeah, rough thing, but not as bad as Flight 19. So 18:20 local time. So now it's 6:20, so they've been in the air for over 3 hours and 20 minutes. The leader states, all planes close up tight. We'll have to ditch unless landfall. When the first plane drops below 10 gallons, we all go down together. So they were going to ditch in the ocean together if they had to. That was the last thing that was ever heard from anyone in Flight 19.
Oh my goodness.
They were never heard from or seen again. They
And
never
none
recovered,
of their planes.
They never recovered any wreckage. They never recovered any bodies. They were just gone. So that's probably just an example of a failure of multiple instruments and a bad leader, and of course the Gulf Stream carrying away the wreckage, right? That's not creepy, except that they were never found. That always bothers me, one way or the other. And it's not like they didn't try and find them. A PBM-5 Mariner, which is a plane, and I'm like, there's no name for the plane on this one, so I'm just giving you like the plane that they sent out.
All right.
Was sent out to be part of the search and rescue mission. And it's a big plane.
Oh my God, please don't tell me they got lost too.
They had a crew on that plane of 14 people. There's 13 in 5 separate bomber planes. There's 14 people on this plane. And it's one number higher than the unlucky number, thank God. And they were sent out at 1800 hours. So they were sent out when Flight 19 was still in the air.
Wow.
And they're like, go find them. And they were told, like, hey, fly in a square search pattern in an attempt to locate the 5 bombers. So you imagine that they would have seen something. It's not like they tried to recover these guys, like, way after. Like, they were up in the air while they were still up in the air.
But they couldn't see them at all.
They couldn't see them at all. They reported in a routine message that they were still searching around 7:30 p.m. local time. So they'd been out for about an hour and a half. And that was the last thing from them. They were never seen from or heard from again.
What?
Their plane also disappeared.
Oh my God.
All of their crew members disappeared. And this is what's crazy about this one, though. That said, a tanker called the SS Gaines Millis stated they saw flames burning on the ocean for 10 minutes in the vicinity of where the PBM-5 Mariner was to be. So the theory is they crashed.
Okay.
Something went wrong and they crashed. And they said that this particular plane might have had issues before, but they still deemed it flyable. And they went to investigate where the flames were, which they said burned for 10 minutes, and they found nothing. They only saw a little pool of oil on top of the water. They didn't find any wreckage. They didn't find any bodies, and they searched there for hours.
Conspiracy.
They have no idea what happened. So the USS Solomons, which is another U.S. Navy vessel, was assisting with the search, and it had one of its aircraft in the air looking for these folks on Flight 19. While their aircraft entered the same position where all this stuff went down, they also lost contact with their aircraft. They were apparently able to make it out and reestablish contact and make it back safely, though. So there was something going on in this area.
Right, at that specific time.
Yeah, so it's like December 5th, 1945, lots of bizarre things, and lots of bizarre things happened with the flight leader too. But at one point, the flight leader said, and this wasn't in the official report, but someone found this later on when they wrote an article about it, and this is when the whole idea of the Bermuda Triangle started to be documented, you know?
Yeah.
Like, we're going to write down all these crazy things happening.
Right.
And this was not validated by me, but it was put in this guy's book, and it's not been refuted. It states, quote, this is what the flight leader said at one point, quote, we are entering white water. Nothing seems right. So they're like,
that's like that bubble.
They're like,
water.
we don't know what's going on. And then he said, we don't know where we are. The water is green. No, white. Like the water had changed color. So it does sound like one of those one of those mud butt explosions from the ocean. And it stated that officials at the Navy on the Board of Inquiry for this incident stated that the planes, quote, flew off to Mars.
Wow.
They're just like, it maybe was sarcasm. Maybe they were just trying to state like, we don't know what the hell happened or where they went. But that was a quote from the Board of Inquiry.
That's crazy.
And there are so many other events that happen in the Bermuda Triangle. A plane disappeared from radar and lost radio contact in the triangle in May of 2017. Flying from Puerto Rico back to Florida. Just disappeared off the radar. They couldn't talk to anyone, but up until that point, everything looked good. The one thing I can say about that is they found debris from that wreck. The people were never recovered.
That's
so we're
insane.
getting better at finding out.
Or getting better at covering up.
I don't know about cover-ups. Like, I think you think everything's a government conspiracy, but we're getting better at recovering wreckage, but that doesn't mean we're any better equipped to deal with all these things that happen, whether or not we even know what's going on. And I've given you all the plausible reasons, but there are quite a few paranormal ones as well. So people believe that there's a wormhole of some sorts in the area known as the Bermuda Triangle. And a lot of the stuff I've read, the only way it really makes sense is if that wormhole is not like stationary, it like moves around. I imagine like a ping pong ball like bouncing around, you know what I mean? Or maybe even the DVD logo when you pause the DVD like bouncing around the screen and like the borders of the triangle, it bounces off of that. And if you happen to be where the wormhole is, like you're not going to be in good shape.
What if this is the generation that has no idea what you're talking
Oh,
about?
that would make me so angry.
Oh my goodness.
The planes and boats simply are in the wrong place at the wrong time and get taken to another plane of existence is what this theory states. Do I buy that? Not really. I think it's possible. I don't think that's beyond the realm of possibility, but in this case, I think it's a place of bizarre but explainable phenomena. that all converge at some points to wreak havoc on just like the most unlucky vessels there could be. And others believe the disappearances of the crafts are in direct relation to unidentified flying objects. And I was really hoping to find accounts of individuals seeing
that
like
would have been so cool.
bizarre lights in the sky or crafts, but I couldn't find any record of anything like that. There was no like chatter on that Flight 19 thing where they talked about seeing stuff in the sky. It was mostly all just like them trying to figure out where they were and seeing weird stuff on the ocean. But saying that, it's just, I could also just be like, so good job, government, of making all those accounts disappear. Because you never know.
Telling you, conspiracy.
Last but not least, a popular theory on why these things take place and why these all happen right in the Bermuda Triangle is something that we will have to cover in the near future on the show. And it's a legend of its own that, if real, could be the reason why this happens, and that, you know, a lot of people really truly believe that this place existed. And some people believe...
Oh my God, please don't say Atlantis.
Some people believe that this is where Atlantis was.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
And it fell to the bottom of the ocean, and whatever happened to Atlantis is like causing this to happen still, or technology in Atlantis, or blah, 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 the Atlantis theory. Like, I personally don't buy that at all. I'm like 99% skeptical of the theory of Atlantis. However, the 1% of me that wants to be like plausible about it, I think it would have had to have been a continent that was further away from like North America, South America, Central America, the Caribbean. I think it's more towards the Pacific by Lord Cthulhu. That makes more sense to me.
You know, there's also a conspiracy or like idea that there was another world, like how Atlantis was a thing. There was another world called Lemuria that existed that was like in the Pacific. So Lemuria existed in the Pacific, and then Atlantis
was in the Atlantic.
And they just hated each other, and they just
killed each other.
Yeah, I don't know.
Wow. We're gonna have to cover Atlantis sooner or later. It'd be funny if I covered Atlantis and you covered Lemuria or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
That sounds like a place in one of the Pokemon games, to be honest.
I named my Animal Crossing town when Animal Crossing City Folk or whatever came out. I named it Lumeria.
That's funny. Did you know about the theory?
No.
Wow.
I just found out. So I was like,
Lord Cthulhu
what?
was working through you. We all know this now. I didn't mean for that to rhyme. But yeah, so like this is just a lot of crazy stuff. And I understand why people, when they see all these things, they want to jump to the supernatural, and they want to say things like Atlantis, and they want to jump to the unexplainable where they say things like aliens. But when you look at all the things that we know can happen, and we know they all happen in the Bermuda Triangle, it all starts to make a little bit of sense, even if that sense is absolutely terrifying. And like, although that is all I have for you this episode, I can almost guarantee you that our research on bizarre occurrences will find its way back to the Bermuda Triangle. So many things go through the Bermuda Triangle. I just sincerely wish we would have gotten this topic before Lee took his cruise. Because I would have loved to have been like, hey bro, like you should listen to this episode so you know what you're in for. So I think it's really funny we decided to stop reading Homegrown Horrors this episode.
Why?
And I'm pretty sure it's going to be the longest episode we've ever had.
No.
It's the longest recording session we've ever had, for sure, which is just, of course, the case because we started at midnight.
Fun, fun, fun in the sun.
Indeed. But that's all I have for the Bermuda Triangle, but we will be back to it. I guarantee it. So it's like that Men's Warehouse commercial.
Wow.
You're going to like the way you look. I guarantee it. But anyways, that's all we have for this episode. So one last time, if you folks want to reach out to us with your homegrown horrors, email storytime@scarish.com. That is our email address. You can go to our website, scarish.com, fill out the contact us form. You can also go to any of our social medias from our homepage or any page on the website. You can join our Discord if you would like and get some live feedback from people, or you can just talk to us and go to one of the many channels we have there. You can also message us on Facebook, facebook.com/scarishpodcast. Click like on the page. We would appreciate that. And you can join the Scarish Spooky Friends group from there if you would like to as well. You can tweet at us at ScarishPod. You can message us on Instagram at ScarishPodcast. Please rate and review us on iTunes. It really does help. Robin, if folks wanted to donate monetarily to us, how can they do that?
So we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/ScarishPodcast. It helps us get through the day. We do have a whole bunch of tiers, starting at $1 and up. We do have physical goodie tiers. And starting next month, I'm going to be mailing out these new stickers I designed. They're super cute. They're like little rainbow vomit face.
They are awesome.
They're super cute. Then there's also coffee.com, ko-fi.com/scarish podcast. And those are one-time donations that help go towards our studio setup. So.
Indeed. And I also want to point out, too, a lot of people that don't know Patreon or aren't familiar with it or have only used it once or twice, you can change your donation level at any time. So anyone who's at the $1 tier that wants to upgrade, go for it. Anyone who's at a higher tier that thinks like, ooh, I might need to bump it down. We totally understand that. Never feel bad about that. And anyone who's afraid to sign up because you're like, I know I can do it now, but I'm not sure if I can do it later, you can always take it off if you need to, and it's not a big deal. And I want to put that out there because I feel like so many people feel like there's pressure. Like, ooh, if I sign up, I don't think I'll be able to unsign up. It's like whatever you can, whenever you can, means so much to us. So we totally understand. It's just how life goes. So thank you to everyone that listens. We appreciate every single one of you. And I think that's just about everything that we have for episode 64. So do you want to do the sign out or should I?
Keep on creeping on and we'll talk to you guys later this week.